I am here with Candace. We met Candace on our first trip to East Palestine. This is our second one. We're actually up in Niles, Ohio now. Candace was able to relocate at least for a little bit during this. But thanks for staying in touch with me while we're gone. We've been texting back and forth even in the couple weeks while I've been away. First off, I guess how have things been since you've been able to relocate from East Palestine, at least temporarily for now?
I mean, I have a safer feeling that I know that I'm, not poisoning the kids because there's been a definite difference in their health. I'd say for the first couple of days after we got here, we were still very lethargic, just tired, coughing. I thought I was going to get a pneumonia. I thought for sure I was going to have to go into the ER. But as a couple of days passed, I noticed the kids getting better, and that gave me peace of mind. But it's still a traumatic event. My whole life has been upended. Mm-hmm. And the scariest thing is what comes next.
Absolutely. And for folks who maybe haven't seen the first interview we did with you, and we'll make sure there's a link for that for folks to check out.
We ended up waiting another 48 hours. We bought air purifiers for the home, allowed them to run because I am a mother of 5 boys and I have a 2-year-old and a 10-year-old still at home with me. About 24 hours after we came home, my 1-year-old got very, very hoarse. I ended up scheduling a pediatrician appointment. They're breaking out with rashes. I'm taking them to the doctors. They're telling me, well, they have eczema and they have croup. Because we can't diagnose them with chemical burns. We can't diagnose them with chemical burns of the lungs because almost after 3 weeks, they're still waiting on guidance from the Ohio Department of Health. How long is it going to take? Are one of my children going to have to drop dead before they get guidance?
Can you just talk a little bit about some of the health effects that some of yourself and some of your children were unfortunately having when this all happened when we talked to you the first time?
Well, they were developing rashes. My 1-year-old, I have a 1, a 2, and a 10-year-old at home with me. And my 1-year-old was hoarse within 24 hours after being home. I mean, your eyes are burning, you have headaches, bloody noses. I couldn't swallow a Tylenol for the last 3 weeks. And after I was here for 2 days, I had some pain in my leg. I was in a bad wreck years ago. And I took a Tylenol and I said, oh my gosh, that Tylenol went right down my throat. And it was like, I knew that I was in danger. And it's kind of weird. Since I've been here, I almost feel like I'm going through maybe a detoxification process. I don't know if that's possible, but it's like my body is trying to heal itself from the last 4 weeks of me being poisoned because I was forced to go back. Norfolk Southern said, we're going to give you this $1,000 and that's it, and I went back hopeful that things were going to be okay. And as my kids got sicker and after 1 week passed, I was like, okay, maybe they're just sick. Maybe they'll get better. Trying not to be, a conspiracy theorist or go down rabbit holes. But when you're seeing these things with your own eyes, kids aren't sick 4 weeks straight. They're not when they've been healthy since birth, And like I showed you when you got here, I noticed I gotten a couple acne type blisters on my face. My 10-year-old son has one too. And we've just developed those since we've been up here. It was probably a day or so after we came here. And then I've started hearing about this chloroacne. And that is what, I never had a zit in my entire life. I'm just a person that doesn't get zits.
You're lucky, I do. So.
It's like, I'm 43 years old. Why am I getting zits at 43 years old? So I looked up this chloroacne and I'm very concerned that that's what it is, that we have been exposed to a high enough level of dioxins that it's changing our bodies. And that is scary. It is scary.
Yeah. And I can tell you, even now, so obviously, like you said, they had you all go back saying, after they did the controlled burn that was not very controlled into
uncontrolled burn.
Yes, thank you. After a couple days of that, they're like, yep, it's fine to go back to your homes. Here's your $1,000 inconvenience check that many people had to fight tooth and nail to get, I will add. Some people were able to get them fairly easily. Other people that we talked to who waited for hours in line in some cases, only to be missing one small piece of paperwork or something like this. To make you all go through that process was terrible. But they tell you it's fine. And especially during my last trip when I was here, I can tell you for sure it is not fine. And even today, it's still not fine. We just did an interview with a resident, Chrissy Hilton, and I went into her house, and her house is still not normal. She's got Sulphur Run running essentially under her backyard. I was out by Sulphur Run where they're doing the aerating and accidentally got a little bit too much of a breath of it. And I personally am still, was feeling some symptoms from it. Had a headache for about an hour and a half, felt a little dizzy and weird. But this isn't something that you're just getting in these aeration spots. It's literally in your home, and it's hard to prove it. You mentioned like feeling like a conspiracy theorist a little bit, and like I even feel like that as I start to dig into some of these things, and you just start to uncover some of the stuff. When you say it out loud, it does sound crazy. It
does. I think I'm going crazy half the time that I've been going through all this with my research and stuff.
But it's as you do the research, you're not crazy. Everyone in the situation is not crazy. There is evidence to back up the mishandling of this situation in any direction you look into it, whether it be air testing, whether it be some of the water testing, the fact that Norfolk Southern buried all of these contaminants underneath the train tracks to get the tracks open again, and hopefully for them to try to like hide it. And now, now that they're digging it all back up again, they're like, oh, well, we'll offer to relocate you for a little bit again. And go ahead.
Well, I think that they actually were forced. I mean, at the last town hall, there was a gentleman that stood up, and it's so impactful to me. He stood there and said, for the love of God, get my people out of here. And I was screaming the same thing in my heart, get us out of here. And no one should still be there. There should not be one single person in that town except the people that are there testing, cleaning, and they are in hazmat suit and full respirators. No one should be there. And like me, yes, I am lucky, but I went in there to that Norfolk Southern and I had to beg. And I did beg because you know what? My children's lives matter. And if I have to go and beg somebody for money, which I don't like to take money, but I can't even get my own money. I can't even get my own equity on my own home from the bank. I don't want their money, but I'm going to take it and I'm going to beg for it so that I know that my children are not being poisoned. I cannot live with myself. And the sad thing is a lot of people are accepting what the EPA is saying, what these government agents are saying, and they are not being truthful. And these people 10 years, maybe even sooner than that, 5 years down the road, their kids are going to get sick and they are never going to be able to forgive themselves.
No, and it's so tough because like you want to believe in the EPA. You know what I mean? You think when you think of the EPA, and I was warned a little bit going into this. My boss Jordan has covered the water crisis in Flint, Michigan for almost 9 years at this point. And he was like, no, you'd be surprised, like some of the stuff that they pulled there, it wouldn't shock me to see some of the same stuff here. And lo and behold, we're seeing a lot of these same things being done. Yeah.
They have failed us. They are endangering people's lives, and it is mind-blowing. I didn't think that the United States of America worked like this. I thought that we had a country that, helped the U.S. citizens. We are not being helped. We are being left to die in a poisonous zone. And yes, I'm out of there, but it breaks my heart when I go to sleep. Yes, it's better, but it's not better. Because when I lay my head at night, I think of everybody that's not in the city limits that is being forced. Forced. Some of those people don't have the means to leave.
Right.
They want out. They will not be given any funds to leave. And this isn't a cheap thing. I got lucky, got this house for as much as you're going to pay for a hotel room a night. So, not everybody that's lucky, and everything at this point is also filled up.
Right.
So, you have 5 families living in one room with dogs, animals.
Yep.
And you go to the assistance center, they know what we want.
Right.
We want them to buy our homes and we want the hell out of there.
Right.
And they're not there yet, is what they're saying.
Right. And that conversation isn't being had by anyone trying to do it. Like you would think the government officials would be like, okay, Norfolk Southern needs to be the one to pay for this, but maybe in the short term, we'll make sure these people are made whole and we'll make sure that we get the money back from Norfolk Southern later.
That's what should happen.
Right.
That's what should happen.
Right.
And it not happening every day, it blows my mind. What is it going to take? All these independent tests are coming out. They're showing that 2 of the world's most dangerous chemicals that exist on the planet Earth, are being found in that town. and kids are going to school there. People are living their lives there. And it's just, what is it going to take? Well, people are going to start dying. It's going to happen. Right. People, I know what I went through with me and my kids health-wise. People are going to die.
No, and I mean, it's absolutely insane that it needs to get to that level where like that is the concern. It's like somebody needs to die. Somebody needs to get, you know, in a hospital for something serious for folks outside of East Palestine to start taking it seriously. And frankly, like at the state level too, the governor is failing the citizens massively. I mean, the fact that an actual state of emergency hasn't been declared to try to bring in more federal resources is insane. We just saw, you know, to draw some comparison, we saw a bank fail that has lots of venture capitalist money in it a couple days ago.
And they were right there.
With less than 48 hours,
Sickening.
Federal governments were like, oh, we're going to make sure everybody has everything that they need. Everybody's money's going to be there. But when you're talking a small town, that it would be way less money to make sure all of you are made whole. There's only 4,500 or so residents in town. You could buy everybody's house and it would be less money.
And a lot of those families are multi-generational families. So really, what would they have done if they would have done this in New York City? I mean, what would be going on? And it's like, I think they thought they were going to have this boo-boo. They were going to cover it up. And that we were this little hillbilly town that, you know, wasn't going to give up much fight and say, well, there was a wreck, let's go back home. And I don't know if they didn't expect people to get sick, but I think that is the true thing that triggered all of this. We all went home with the hopes of it being okay. It was when 75% of the town started to get sick, rashes, all of these things that you guys have heard over and over again. It's not in our heads.
Right. No, it's definitely not. I can attest and also vouch that it is not in anybody's head. People are getting sick and
people are going to start to die.
Yeah.
People are going to end up losing their lives. Even me being there, I think, are my children ever going to be able to have children? I exposed them for 4 weeks because my God-given right to protect my children as their mother was ripped from my hands. My life was taken from me that day. My home was taken from me. And just like Lonnie yesterday mentioned that she bought her house with the money she got from her dad. The house I lived in, my parents rented that house for 19 years. My mother died of cancer 6 years ago. And when she died, I moved in that house because it was a part of my mother. And I have worked all these years to pay for that house. It's gone. I don't even want to go back there. I don't ever want to go back. And Lewis, I am going to be forced to go back. I know that when this 8-week remediation thing's over, they're going to cut off the money, and my family lives paycheck to paycheck. And like right now, my boyfriend works in East Palestine. He is proof it is not safe. He is driving in there, and I don't want to mention where he works, but he works somewhere that he should not be getting sick there.
Right.
He's coming home not feeling well, getting feelings of being intoxicated. He said, Candace, we became nose blind to it. He said, kind of like if you're in a room of dog shit for long enough, you stop smelling the dog shit. And that's exactly what started happening with us. I was starting to get used to it because I had been in that smell. I wasn't smelling it as much, but it was still affecting me just as bad.
Right. Because he's exposed to it that much that essentially you get used to the smell of the chemicals in the air and whatever else he's having to deal with at his workplace.
And he'll come home and be here, or not home, but our home away from home for now, for a couple hours. And he's like, it's not safe there. It's not safe there. And it's just so scary. It's so scary. I don't even want him to go. I told him today, quit. I don't even care. Quit. I would rather have you here. My love of my life, you know, we're supposed to grow old together. Is that even going to happen? You know, I'm 43 years old. I just had 2 children. Will I even live long enough to see them grow up now? Probably not. Because I sat in that shit for 4 weeks. And I know I'm going to be made to go back and probably sit in it some more. And I'm not going back. I refuse. I refuse to absolutely go back. My girlfriend actually has been telling me a story about Sodom and Gomorrah. And when she looked back, she turned into a pillar of salt. And she said, Candace, if you look back, you're going to turn into a pillar of salt. So, you know, I'm not a very spiritual person, but I have been praying and stuff. And when I think of that, I can't look back. I want to look back, but I also know looking back is I can't do it.
No, I mean, again, I'm sure, I'm personally, even I'm glad that you're able to at least leave for this time frame, but something needs to be done about the folks who are looking for options to leave even after this. Because again, you mentioned the interview with Lonnie yesterday. I mean, I can't listening to her story. Every time a train would go by, I would, it sounds like she's rightfully petrified every time a train would go by.
Well, same here. Our ambulance went by the other night, and I was shaking.
Right.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm like traumatized because I'm trying to downplay it,
right,
and trying not to let it invade every aspect of my life."
Right.
But like when that happened, I was literally shaking, and we are traumatized, and I don't think unless you live there, you have no idea what it's like. It's like, my girlfriend, her son actually got killed on the tracks in Palestine 2 years ago. And I could never tell her, I know how you feel, because I've never lost a child. I don't ever want to lose a child.
Right.
And now I feel like my kids are going to get taken by those tracks too. And I don't want to go through what she's been through. And we are traumatized. And I'm still blown away. It goes back to the fact that nobody is coming to help us. The government, FEMA, nobody. Who is going to stand up and do the right thing here? And how long is it going to take? How long? It's been what? We're six weeks out. I mean, do you know how many people have lost their lives? There's going to be children that can't ever bear children. There's going to be kids that come up with leukemia and who knows, ALS and all different kinds of types of things here. And it's like, these are people's lives at stake, and nobody's doing nothing. We matter, Lewis, and it feels like we've been deserted.
Yep. Just a couple more things, if that's okay, and take a second if you need it. So, two things I wanna ask about now. So, first off, early on, you had actually sent me some videos of the air tests that were done in your home. I've kind of dug through some of those and the information there, looked at the test results from you and several other places. I've been consulting with an expert who, he's a doctorate in chemistry. He's got a toxicology degree, very well-versed in a lot of this stuff. I guess even just some of the basic things in these videos, there was just bad information given from the representative talking while a member of the EPA was present. Just generally speaking, bad information saying, oh, you can do your regular cleaning in your house. That's been very well proven wrong at this point. The testing that they're doing is doing like these broad tests for VOCs using, again, with the help from your information, it's called a PID device. There's no way using that device you can test for all of the chemicals that were on board the train, but more importantly, the chemical byproducts of when those are set on fire, right? So one of the byproducts is dioxin that we've heard a lot about, but several other ones include things like formaldehyde, things like hydrogen chloride, things like phosgene. Got several people on the record now saying that that device can't be testing for formaldehyde, phosgene, and hydrogen chloride at the same time. So they're doing these broad tests. When you do the broad tests, the results can vary wildly, which is why you're seeing in basically every house less than 0.1 parts per million. Every
single house tests it almost exactly the same.
Yeah, exactly. So basically, like, what, at that early stage, everybody knew a lot less about this. Now unfortunately, you've all had to become experts in these things because no one was doing it for you. Because you would expect that your government would want to come in and do this right. Now knowing what you do now, how do you feel about that whole process that unfolded with them coming in and waving their wand around?
It's absolutely appalling. If you look at the video I actually sent you, because what I did when they came in, I said, I'm just going to record this. I didn't know how to do a voice recording, so I kind of just pressed record on a video, and I held my phone in my hand.
Yep.
That video was 6 minutes, 52 seconds long.
Yep.
They supposedly in that time tested my whole indoors, which I have 3 rooms on the bottom level, and then I have an entire ranch out upstairs. They tested the outside, my kids' play area, around the trampoline, and supposedly my whole front yard in 6 minutes. I think it's like 52 seconds or something like that. That was worrisome to me. But then when I played that video, I think it was by the time I had met you, and it was 3 weeks or so later, and I listened to what they were actually saying and actually knew some things about the devices. I was like, it will make, I think I told you, you'll laugh. Like, it's not funny, but it's a joke.
Right.
And I placed the lives of my children in the results of those tests saying that it was safe to return to my home.
Right.
And it's like, when you find out now how much weight you gave that test when that test absolutely showed nothing.
And it's like, you expect it. So there were two parties present there. You had CTEH, which is a company that has a shady history at best, that is hired by Norfolk Southern, actually. But in that video, you hear the representative from CTEH say, and this person over here is with the EPA.
Yeah.
So a person from the EPA is listening to this advice being given and saying absolutely nothing.
And the advice she gave me, I can't remember all, but it was absolutely ferocious advice. And it was like, seriously, that's what they told me to do? Are you kidding me?
Right.
The advice she gave me basically put us in more danger than anything. It was like, and honestly, I wanted to take that advice as good, sound advice and do the right thing and protect my children. And I think that's what people are still trying to do, that are trying to believe that what the experts are saying is the truth, that it is safe, that it is okay. And it's not.
Yeah.
And it's not. And there's private testing coming out all over the place. And there's people uncovering things like you with CTH and our, the air monitoring they did to say that it was safe in the first place, that is false. So, I mean, all these things are unraveling, and it does sound like a conspiracy theory, but it is not. Yeah. And it's actually crazy that something like that is being allowed to go on and continue to go on. Yeah. And like, we had this Senate meeting. What did that solve? All that he did was sit there and liar, pants on fire and say, I promise to do my best. You haven't done your best since day one.
Yeah. And, at least there were some tough questions coming from senators there, but
he didn't answer them.
He didn't answer them. And also, senators are good at talking. Politicians are good at talking. We'll see where the follow-through is. I haven't seen much since that Senate hearing from any of these senators, for the most part. We'll see if they follow through. I gave some credit to, I thought J.D. Vance actually put out a pretty good statement with his testimony there. We'll see if his statement follows through, though. If he does follow through on some things, I'll give him all sorts of credit. I don't agree with J.D. Vance on much, but that's okay. You know what I mean? If he goes through and fights for you all, that would be great. I hope he does, but we'll see.
I hope that these people realize that the blood of 4,500 people will lie on their hands when they're not doing the right thing. And those EPAs, they sat up there in the last town hall meeting I was at, the Norfolk Southern, I don't know who else was all there, like deer in headlights, because they know. They know the truth. They know it's not safe. And I just pray, that somebody comes in and saves these people. I just don't know what it's going to take for it to happen. And I had my girlfriend call me right before you came in and said that there was a news report that dead dogs were found or something. So I'm planning on getting on and researching that once you leave. But what is it going to take? Is it going to take 5 or 10 kids drop dead in the school? What is it going to take for us to get the help that we need? And like you saw it, I told you when you texted me the other day, every camera crew's gone. You're the only one left. And it's mind-blowing.
Yeah. It's mind-blowing to me too. I was at the city council meeting the other night, and we were the only camera in the room at the city council meeting.
I know, because I've been following you. I couldn't believe that when you said that. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And it makes me fearful, because that's exactly how Norfolk Southern is going to get away with doing what they've done since February 3rd, because no one's watching what they're doing.
Well, Candace, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me again. Unless there's anything else, I'll let you, if you want to say anything else, feel free. But otherwise, again, thank you so much for taking the time.
Just everybody's in my heart, East Palestine, and, continue to be strong. I know that it's tough, but don't give up, because when we give up, they're not going to do the right thing. We've had to fight and fight. Just don't give up the fight, and fight for your families and for your loved ones. And that's it.